Hello and welcome to the Ridiculously Good VA Show with Tracy Daviero. If you are a virtual assistant or want to be one, this is the place to learn the tips and tricks you need to become a ridiculously good VA. I've been a part of the VA industry since 1998, and I'm excited to get to know you and help you build an amazing business. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Ridiculously Good VA Show with Tracy Daviero. We are here to teach you how to be a ridiculously good virtual assistant. Today we're talking about communication. When you work virtually, being brilliant at business communication is absolutely essential. And my quote of the day is from George Bernard Shaw, who's a poet. And he says, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. I love this quote because communication is two ways, right? It's about a conversation between two people, sometimes more than that, but often it's not a conversation, it's not communication unless there are two parties. And each person thinks that they're being clear on either side of that communication, but that's not always the case. In virtual work, communication is absolutely essential to get right. And one of the things that happens is that communication can break down and it can take practice to get it right. And that's what I want to talk about today. We do not have the luxury of having conversations all day long with our clients or our colleagues, but we'll focus mainly on client and VA communication in this episode. And when we're in a business setting, an office setting, we know that we can pass by someone's desk and we can have a conversation about something, a little back and forth chit chat, and we can cover a lot of ground. We can always get the clarity that we need in just a few minutes. But when we're using things like email and project management systems and that kind of thing to facilitate our communication as virtual assistants, sometimes we have to replace that. We have to do a better job of what we are conveying to people in order for the clarity to come through. Bad communication can make or break relationships, and in business, this is even more important. It can result in wasted time, a lot of back and forth that is just not necessary, misunderstandings in terms of intentions and expectations. Deadlines can get crunched or missed altogether, using up retainer time unnecessarily. We spend too much time going back and forth and either don't charge the client for it or the client ends up losing their money on their retainer because we are charging them for it. Frustration by one or both parties, which I hear very, very often from a lot of VAs that I talk to, and confusion about the task, confusion about the details or deadlines or lead times or pieces, responsibilities that people are responsible for certain tasks, all of that type of thing. But good communication helps you save time. You don't have that back and forth. When you are properly managing the communication with your clients, you don't have all of that back and forth. You are more organized. Everything is definitely clearer for everyone. The expectations that are set can be met. You manage the client's retainer better, which is their money, and you increase your productivity. And when your productivity goes up, so does that of your clients. So, how can we become brilliant at business communication? I have 10 steps for you, I think. Yes, I do have 10 steps. So, first thing you need to do is create a communication system for your business and stick to it. If you don't have one, ask your colleagues, what do they do? Ask me, what do I do? Ask me for suggestions. But like any system that you put together for your business, you need to make sure that it's going to work for you. So something that works for me might not be the best system for you. So you need to think about how you work, what communication works for you. I know for me, I never used instant messaging, or I guess we call it DMs and that kind of thing now, because it's just too brief and convenient. And my clients would often rush messages to me, or they would interrupt me when I wasn't, expecting to hear from them. And it was not a convenient way for me to communicate with them. So I didn't offer it as a means to do that. So what you need to do is set some boundaries about communication. What works for you. You are the business owner, you are the VA, and it doesn't really matter what works for your clients. What you need to do is find the clients that will fit into the way you work in every aspect of your business. And with the communication, it's really, really important. So what works for you, and then you show your clients how to use it, or you direct your clients how to use it. Number two, production calls, project management system, and emails. Those were my three go tos whenever I was working with clients. And so we would do what I called production calls, and that was one phone call that they got every single week. And we discussed an overview of what it was that we needed to look after for the week, discussed the closed projects from the previous week, and anything else. It's mainly meant to be an overview, a high level overview of what you are doing. And it's a good opportunity to be able to have conversation with your clients. I know that when we are on the phone with somebody or on a Zoom call, you can cover a lot more stuff in 5 minutes, or 15 minutes is usually the what my production calls were. And you can cover a lot of ground in that 15 minutes. And imagine how long those emails would be if you were sending them back and forth. So use the production call as a means to clarify your communication and then shorten things up from then. Put things into your project management system and emails after that. And so if your clients are requesting tasks, either they can do it through your project management system, or they can do it through email. Again, that's entirely up to you. Whichever system you use, you want to make sure that you're setting it up and you are explaining to the client what their responsibility is to use it, and sort of how the workflow goes. And then you have to hold them to doing that. You need to set some boundaries, and you need to hold those boundaries when you do have a system that you know is going to work for you. Number three, learn how to be brief and clear with your words. One of the things that I know a lot of people struggle with is brevity in email communication. And I'll say email communication, but it's really any kind that I'm talking about, any kind of written communication that we're talking about. Learn how to be brief. You don't want to be really wordy. One of the things that slows everybody down is a lot of unnecessary explaining or language and that kind of thing in emails, and they're looking for the main point. What you want to be able to do is get really clear. And if you've ever done any kind of writing before, we know that this is something that we remove, unnecessary words and that kind of thing all the time. But it is really, really important to be able to convey what you want in very simple terms. And that is what really takes practice. So you want to be direct and to the point in all of your communications so that you're not wasting the client's time and you're not wasting your time either, and your message is getting across clearly. Number four, draft your communication, leave it, and come back and edit it later and proofread. You will start to see your patterns of how you write on the fly. And you know that, especially if there's some kind of a dispute or something you're trying to explain, if you're in a different frame of mind, if you're worked up and you are typing an email, it's going to come across in the words that you use and the speed at which you type the email. So you want to be able to back off, come back and edit that and proofread it. Make sure that you are sending professional communication, but also very, very, and like I say, not to say brief every time, but really keep things as simple as you can. I think that's the idea. Maybe it's not brief. Maybe it's keep things simple. So if you're requesting a task, or requesting some information for a task, or pieces that the client is supposed to provide for you, very simply, hi client, I'm working on this. I need just a reminder that I need these pieces. If you can get them to me by Thursday, that would be great. Really, that's as brief as you need to be, right? You don't need to be putting in all kinds of other information about your schedule and why you need the work and what's holding it. Really nothing. It's just, as simple as you can be. Then they know exactly what they need to do. Oh, number five, I'm actually getting to that point. Take emotions out of your business communication. State facts for clarity and keep things professional. Always, always go from the perspective that this is business communication. You can have a wonderful relationship with your clients, but it doesn't need to come into every last piece of communication that you have. And so you want to make sure, like I say, you're being very clear. Hello, client, this is what I'm looking for. Can you get it to me by such and such? That would be great. I'll give you an update on the other project tomorrow, or something like that. Like, it's just the simpler you can be, the more clear everybody is, and we know then what the purpose of that particular email was. Number six is one message per email. This is actually a pet peeve of mine, so this ended up in my number 6 in my number 10 list. one message per email, and make sure your subject line conveys the message. There is nothing more challenging than trying to find an email that somebody sent you about a particular subject and the subject line is not clear. And so we want to make sure that to really bump up our business communication, that we're talking about one main idea in every single email or project, whatever it is, but in that email, and that the subject line is clear. You don't want to say, and if it's a summary of a call, that's totally fine because there's a lot of things that you would cover in it. But if it's specifically about one topic, then you want to say, newsletter for the week of August 10th or whatever it is. And you want to be able to be really clear so that the client can find the things that they need, generally based on the subject line. Number 7, ask questions. Always, always ask questions and be clear in your questions. If you are wondering where something is or how to proceed with a certain project or task, you want to just be really clear about that. I'm a little bit stuck on such and such, or I want to get started on this project. And if you need clarity around the steps that you need to take for any reason, just be clear about that. Don't ask them, what is the next step? Say, this is what I assume I should be doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just give me a yes or no, and I can begin, or I can proceed. And being able to give them the information that they need instead of making them type back a lot of steps or anything like that is really, really important as well. So clarity is very important when you're describing things, but also in your questions. And you want to know all the time or you want to be able to put in every single communication as well what you want the client to do next, what you need them to do next. And sometimes you're stating a fact and you're letting them know that this is what you're going to do next. Always end the emails with whatever the next step is, just so that everybody is on the same page. Number 8, be kind and friendly. Of course, like I say, as you start to grow your relationships with your clients, you are definitely going to have some personality come into it. And there's nothing wrong with personality, but we don't want to bring our emotions into our emails and our communication like that. We want to be brief, and brevity is the best thing. We don't want to take paragraphs to explain things. That is, even if you're being kind and friendly, you can leave a nice salutation or whatever the bottom of the email is called whenever you're signing off. I guess it's your sign off. You want to be able to definitely bring your personality into that, but again, not overwhelming the business nature of the communication. Number 9, be sure you understand your client's requests. I think that is one of the things that you want to make sure of all the time. If somebody's asking you to do something, instead of just a yes, you want to repeat back the request until so that they can confirm it, and you want to make sure that that's clear. I think that's how sometimes the production calls for me were always really helpful, because you can have that conversation. If you know a project is coming up, you can get that information. It doesn't always just need to be back and forth through emails. Number 10, don't waste anybody's time. I think that sometimes we get really bogged down in a lot of back and forth email because we don't think ahead of what it is that we're trying to convey. And so when you do plan what it is that you are saying to somebody and they're able to concisely reply back to you, then that makes things a whole lot better. We're not wasting anyone's time then. We're using as minimal communication as we can to get the maximum message across. And that's it. That was 10. There you go. That was pretty quick. Um, and if things go off the rails, because sometimes they do, and this is why I say do not put your emotions into your communication. Don't read into messages that people send you. If, reading things incorrectly, we talk about tone and that kind of thing, and not coming through in emails. And the bottom line is, if there's something that you're not sure of, make sure that you address it immediately. You don't want to leave anything festering. Any problem that you're going to have is going to get worse the longer it sits. And so you want to make sure that you are always looking to jump on anything that could be looked at as a conflict. A quick discussion can also help in that case. If you're confused, if there are a lot of, we do a lot of different kinds of work, and many of those things have lots and lots of different steps to them, or quick turnarounds, or maybe we're working with a team of people and there are a lot of different, hands in the, or fingers in the pie or whatever. And I think it's important to recognize that just jumping on a call with the client to clarify what it is and maybe whose responsibility or what the lead times are, all of those expectations, I think really, really help to make your business communication shine. And really, when you start to identify if you start to look at the communication that you're sending out right now, and if you start to identify some of the things that maybe you could do better, you're always going to have clients. We're going to have clients who are not that good at communicating. So I think it really means for us that we have to step up, and we definitely have to do a better job of it, because a lot of times that's not our client's forte. And so we need to be able to decipher what they mean. And that's why I say, when you're setting up a system for communication, make sure that that's your system that works for you. If we're always kind of trying to mold ourselves around our clients and do the best thing for them all the time, sometimes their habits are not that good. So we don't want them to be cultivating those bad habits. We want to change their habits a little bit, and make sure that they are doing things to the best of their ability too. An example, and I think I've given a couple of examples already, but say a client requests work from you. Acknowledge receipt of the request. I can't tell you how many times people don't do this. And I find it really frustrating, because the one thing that clients get really anxious about, and maybe turns into micromanagement, is when they don't know the status of their tasks. And so for me, when someone would send me a task request, I would respond to them and I would say, "That's great. I got this. Thank you very much. I can get it back to you on Thursday, or I can work on it on Friday," whatever that is. And being able to set that expectation. But that initial "yes, I got it" is something that is really, especially now with the way email works, and spam folders and all of that type of thing. Just giving somebody a receipt of that, or acknowledging, I should say, that you have received what they sent you and that you're not ignoring them. And if you give them a time frame that doesn't work for them, and they say, "Oh, I need it back before Friday," then at least that's a discussion that you can have. But when you're setting those expectations, you're telling them, "I'm putting your work into my schedule. This is when it fits in." And as I say, it makes for better communication when you are the one who really is in charge of things, right? And you always want to communicate your progress as well as delivery. You want to be able to let them know that something is coming along as planned, or that there are slowdowns, or that somebody is not holding up their end of the bargain. You always want to address those things as well. So don't leave things. If you're waiting on a piece of information, or say some writing or some pictures or something like that from a client, you need to make sure that they're aware of that status. Message them, let them know that you are not able to proceed on something until they send you their pieces. And then, of course, if that's an ongoing issue, that's something that you can solve later on, and say, "How can I help you get these pieces more quickly, because we're really running up against our deadlines every time we turn around." Again, it's just factual. It's not, and you can be as frustrated as you want when you go to your email and say, "Oh, Jane still didn't send me the stuff I need for her newsletter today." But you want to be able to see how you can help her get things done. And so not bringing your emotion into it, and actually just stating the facts in an email. "Dear Jane, looking for some input as to how I can help facilitate you getting the information that you need to me. Where can we keep it? What can we do? How can we get ahead on it?" Those kinds of things. And again, that doesn't even need to be in an email. That can actually be in your production call. Brilliant communication is not hard to do when you practice tips like the 10 that I've given you today. I hope that you found something helpful, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Ridiculously Good VA Show. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. For more great resources for your VA business, visit my website at yourvamentor.com. I'll see you back here next time.